Amidst the tumultuous waves of economic instability, Zimbabwe dares to steer its vessel towards uncharted waters with a striking initiative: a gold-backed currency. This audacious move, aiming to anchor the nation's floating fortunes to something as enduring as gold, is not merely a throwback to an antiquated economic system, but a potential harbinger for a new global dialogue on currency value and sovereignty.
Zimbabwe, once a poster child for hyperinflation horror stories, might just emerge as a surprising pioneer in the genesis of a modern gold standard, influencing not just the African continent but potentially swaying the axis of global economic power dynamics.
Zimbabwe's economic voyage. From hyperinflation to a golden hope. Zimbabwe's economy has been synonymous with the term hyperinflation since the early 2000s, when the government, led by then-President Robert Mugabe, embarked on land reforms that led to a dramatic drop in output and a terrifying surge in prices. By 2008, the inflation rate had soared to an almost incomprehensible 79.6 billion% month-on-month, leaving the Zimbabwean dollar utterly worthless. In response, Zimbabwe suspended its own currency in 2009, and a multi-currency system predominantly featuring the US dollar took its place. This brought some stability, but also created a new set of challenges, particularly in liquidity and domestic control over monetary policy. In a bold pivot, the government of Zimbabwe, under President Emmerson Mnangagwa, has opted to reintroduce a national currency, this time backed by gold. Mnangagwa announced this initiative as a part of broader measures to stabilize the economy, regain monetary autonomy, and reduce dependence on foreign currencies. The Central Bank of Zimbabwe has been accruing gold to bolster this new currency, suggesting a strategic alignment of natural resources with financial stability and sovereignty. This gold reserve is envisioned not just as a buffer, but as a bridge to fiscal credibility and international respect. Yet, the rollout of this gold-backed currency entails significant risks. The success hinges on the government's ability to maintain a sizable and secure stockpile of gold, and to manage this reserve transparently and efficiently. Historically, nations with commodity-backed currencies have faced challenges such as commodity price volatility and fiscal mismanagement. Additionally, there's the immense task of restoring public and international confidence in Zimbabwe's fiscal and monetary policies, a feat that requires stringent governance and robust economic strategies. The mechanics of a gold-backed currency are relatively straightforward, but implementing them in a modern economy is fraught with complexities.
Essentially, the new Zimbabwean currency will have its value directly linked to a certain fixed amount of gold. This linkage promises to provide a more stable and less inflation-prone currency, as the value of gold is generally less volatile than that of fiat currencies.
Theoretically, this should attract foreign investment and stabilize local markets, provided the system is managed with transparency and efficiency. Internationally, Zimbabwe's move places it on a curious pedestal. While most of the world relies on fiat currencies, which are government-issued but not backed by physical commodities, Zimbabwe's gold-backed strategy could set a precedent for other nations struggling with similar economic conditions, particularly for countries within the BRICS grouping: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which have shown interest in reducing their dependence on traditional Western financial systems. Zimbabwe's experiment could offer valuable insights. Geopolitically, the response from global powers will be pivotal. Western nations, particularly those that dominate financial institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, may view Zimbabwe's move as a threat to the current economic order. Conversely, it could garner support from nations advocating for greater economic sovereignty and those predisposed to asset-backed financial systems. Nevertheless, the stakes are incredibly high. The success of Zimbabwe's gold-backed currency will not only reshape its own economic landscape, but could also influence global discussions on financial sovereignty, currency stability, and economic strategy. For Zimbabwe, this isn't just an economic reform. It's an audacious gamble to reclaim control over its economic destiny, and potentially an invitation for other nations to reconsider the foundations of their monetary systems. As Zimbabwe charts this bold economic course, the eyes of the world, especially those of emerging and economically challenged nations, are watching closely. Whether this leads to a golden era for Zimbabwe or another economic quagmire will depend largely on the execution of this vision and the international economic community's response. Clearly, the implications of this transition extend far beyond the borders of Zimbabwe, potentially signaling a seismic shift in how nations think about and manage their economies in an increasingly interconnected world.